In the last part, I talked about the radiation decay. So now I'm going to continue moving on to the next part. Anyways, this is going to be the last part I make this video. I'm sorry if I didn't make videos for 2 days because I don't upload on Saturday and Sunday since I'm really busy at that time. But I want to make sure to complete this part of the syllabus, the nuclear physics journey, because I have an exam coming in 1 month and I can't upload anymore after my exam, and I make sure to complete this. So right now this is going to be the last part. So let's continue. So yeah, last time we talked about the radiation decay. Now we've already covered up the whole first part of the atom, nuclear, and radiation part of the nuclear physics. But there is a part 2 of this chapter. It's called Fundamental Particles, and I will be covering everything in this video. So let's move on with that. So fundamental particles. The definition is a particle that cannot be split into anything smaller. Okay? An electron is a fundamental particle. A proton and a neutron are not a fundamental particle. Okay, because they have something inside them. Okay, we're gonna take a look. And we will go deeper into an atom and we're gonna call them subatomic particles. Now, subatomic particle families have 2 families. Those are the leptons and hadrons. The leptons, one of the example of the group is called an electron family. And these are all the family: electron, positron, electron neutrino, and electron antineutrino. Okay, so these are the lepton family that you should be familiar and you should memorize them. Anyways, the hadron family have the baryons, and baryons have 2 types: the proton and the neutrons. And we're going to focus more on the hadron side since they have more characteristics in the book and there are more things that you need to know about them. But what you should know right now is that leptons, such as electrons and neutrinos, are particles that are unaffected by strong nuclear force. That means that their bond together is so strong that can't be affected by any nuclear force. However, for hadron, they can be affected by a strong nuclear force. Therefore, they can be splitted. Alright. So examples of the baryon. Okay, look back again. The baryons here are the proton and the neutron. Okay, a proton is made up of 2 up quarks and 1 down quark. So proton has UUD. Oh, if I didn't mention earlier, quark are things that are, or particles that inside the baryons, inside the proton and the neutrons. Okay, imagine them as particles. Okay, so a neutron is made up of one up quark and 2 down quarks. A neutron therefore has a symbol of UDD. Okay, this is in a quark form, UUD and UDD. And if you can't imagine what a proton quark and a neutron quark looks like, we're gonna take a look at that later. But right now, you should know that a proton has a quark of UUDs and UDD, and you can memorize this by memorizing that proton and neutron starts with U and ends with the D, but a proton has a U in the middle and neutron has a D in the middle, so you just kind of switch. So an up quark has a symbol of U and has a charge of positive 203. A down quark has a symbol of D and have a charge of negative 1/3. and these two you need to memorize the charges. However, for strange, it has a symbol of S, but the charge is going to be the same as down. Now, strange will be learned at second year of A level, but you just need to know about the charge of the quark strange. So I haven't done practice where it mentioned any strange. However, there might be for New Year's past paper, maybe in 2022 paper, there might be strange quark, or maybe, yeah. But you should be familiar only with the charge, -1/3. So if they give you a strange quark, now you know the charge. And the same goes for down and up as well. You do need to memorize all the charges. Okay. Now to look up at the Quark model. This is the part where I tell you to imagine. So a proton has 2 up quarks and 1 down quark. And this circle thing at the end has a proton. So you can imagine a proton particle is going to be this whole gray thing, but UU and D is going to be the quarks. And this is a weak, well, let's call them bond for now, but they have a name for this bond. We're going to talk about this later. So a neutron has UDD, like I said, and this is the neutron particle here. So I told you that a proton has a charge of 1, right? A positive 1. And it consists of UUD, and U has a charge of 2/3, and D has -1/3. So if you combine them together and do this calculation, 2/3 plus 2/3 minus 1/3, or 2 plus 2 is 4 minus 1 is 3, 3/3 is 1, positive 1. Refer to the charges here. So a neutron has 1 up, and 2 down. So 1 up is going to be 2/3 minus 1/3 minus 1/3. 2 minus 1 is just 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 divided by positive integer is going to be 0. So that's how you can prove that the proton charge is positive 1 and the neutron charge is 0, by telling about the Quark model. Now moving on. Wait, before I move on, I forgot to explain about the bond. This neutron also have a bond, okay? The same bond. Okay, all particles have their corresponding anti-particle, okay? I was confused at this part of the textbook because when I was reading it, I didn't know what was the anti-particle was, or anti-quark. But an anti-particle are just particle, just the opposite charge. They're essentially the same, but the only difference of a particle and an anti-particle is just the charge. I'll give you an example right now. So proton has a symbol of P1 on top, 1 bottom, 1 for the nucleon, because that's how many nucleon they have, and bottom 1 is a charge, positive 1. I'll mention this back. However, if the proton turns like this, all of a sudden, a -1 charge, but nucleon is still 1. This proton right here is an antiparticle, and therefore it's going to call antiproton or something. But they don't have a name specifically for this proton. But now you should know what an antiparticle is. Basically, this particle that's the same P proton, but different charges, opposite charges. And since their charges are the opposite, that means their charge calculation was the opposite. So, okay, let's say a charge for a proton, it's gonna be U, U, D, right? Okay, sorry, my mistake. So, a proton has a charge of UUD, 2 ups and 1 down. So, a proton has negative 2 over 3 plus minus 2 over 3. It's going to be plus minus. And down quark is going to be 1 over 3. Yeah. Negative 2 minus negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 over 3 is negative 1. I hope you can see that. But basically, the charge for proton is going to be negative 1. It's still a proton, but the charges is only different. And this goes for all baryons. Okay, so for anti-up, there's anti-down quark, there's anti-strange. And they have the opposite charge. Why did I use white? They have opposite charge of the original quark. Okay, just keep in mind the particle is just the same, but what's only different is the charge. And you shouldn't be too confused about the features, the stuff like that, the features. So these antiquarks combine to similarly form respective antiprotons and antineutrinos. I told you, antiprotons, that's what they're called. So an antiproton is a proton that has negative 1 charge, and antineutrons as well. We're going to explain more about antiquarks this later. Okay, but I want to explain now. Okay, so to understand more about the antiquarks, you need to know about antiparticles. Antiparticles are the opposite charges of the original particles, and since we know that the quarks are for the original particle, so like the original particles like proton and neutron, that means that therefore antiquarks are for antiparticles. Okay, these two are linked. So you might be given in a question in the past paper, like they give you a specific charge, like you're gonna have a total charge of negative 2 or 3, and they're gonna say, what type of quark is that? And the answer is an anti-up quark. I don't have enough space, but now you should know. Okay, moving on. Okay, antiquarks are for antiparticles. Okay, I've already mentioned this already in the past part, but this beta decay is really important. Okay, and here's why. Beta particle, I'm going to explain again since it's for revision. So a negative beta particle is a neutron, has been decayed from a neutron to a proton, an electron, and an antineutrino. And in your book, you might see this symbol. So now you know what these symbols represent. However, for a positive particle, positive beta particle, proton to neutron, okay? A negative beta particle, neutron to proton. Kind of switch, right? Yeah. And if you're wondering if beta particle is the antiparticle for positive beta particle, they are not. Even though they have charge of, so negative beta particle has a nuclear number of 0 and negative 1. However, for beta particle, an electron 0 with a positive 1 charge. And the reason why they are not antiparticle is because they are not baryons. They're not in the same family of the baryons. Here, they are not in here. They belong in the leptons. And they don't have any fundamental particle. They're just one. So even though they have different charges, they're going to be different. Okay? And this is not called an anti-electron. It's going to call a positron. Okay? So just keep that in mind if you're asked in a multiple choice question. So a negative beta particle is from neutron to proton and electron and anti-neutrino, remember. And if you see the word anti, it's always going to have the symbol in the top where it has a dash, and this dash means anti. Alright, so like an anti-proton, it's going to be a symbol like this. A neutrino has a sign like a V. An anti-neutrino is going to be negative. So it's going to be a line on top. Okay, so these equations you need to remember. Okay, what the neutron decay do and what proton decay do. Positive beta particle is going to turn from protons to neutrons. A negative beta particle, neutron to proton, and negative beta particle. Now you need to look at the Quark model of the beta decay. The negative beta decay has quark. Remember I told you neutron. I'm labeling now. So neutron has UDD. Okay, 1 up, 2 down. And then when it's decay into a proton, it's gonna switch. It's gonna switch the neutron into a proton, right? If you can see here, if you notice that one of the quark of the D is switched to U. And that's I've told you before that a D from the neutron is switched into a quark. It's going to be turned into a proton. And you have to be familiar with the description. If they say describe the decay of negative beta particle, always I said that wrong. Describe the Quark model of the negative beta decay from neutron to proton. You can see that one of the D quark turned into an U quark. Okay, and same here for positive beta particle. It's going to turn from up quark to down quark. Okay, and remember, negative beta decay gives out a negative electrons and antineutrinos. However, positive beta decay is going to give a positive electron and a neutrino. Okay, now you should be able to describe a negative beta and a positive beta decay in terms of a simple Quark model. Okay, finally, the last point. In the hadron, each particles have a nuclear force called the weak interaction. The weak interaction is also force. Okay, strong nuclear force. Okay, this is only in the hadrons class, not in the leptons class. So if you're given a question where a random particle gives out some forces, give out some decay, some other particle, it depends. If it's hadron, it's going to undergo weak interaction force. Okay, only in the hadrons. The definition of a weak interaction, or the features, is when quarks undergo change to another quark, and that means exactly like this. A negative beta decay of a neutron baryon is going to turn into proton, and a positive beta decay, proton to a neutron. They change the quark, okay? The interaction that causes the beta decay, in which a hadron changes to a different hadron with the emission of a lepton and an anti-lepton. Now, I haven't heard what is an anti-lepton, but it says that in my book, so I might as well just put it. I'm assuming that anti-lepton is the opposite particles of leptons, but they didn't describe it in the book. You can get the book for free if you just message and you can read it to yourself. But what this sentence means is that when a hadron, a baryon, same thing, particles decay, it's gonna give out electrons and a neutrino. Remember the proton? I think it was proton if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, proton is gonna give a neutrino. Yeah, it's gonna give this. When you see a proton giving out a part in the electron family, or the leptons, it's gonna undergo weak interaction. Same for neutrons. Neutrons gonna give out anti-neutrino. If you know more about anti-lepton, please comment down below. I don't think it's in the syllabus, but it's something good to learn. I'll make sure to pin it. And that's it for this part of the video. I know it took a while, it took quite long for this video, but congratulations, you've already completed nuclear physics chapter, and I've already explained all the part you need to know in this in the syllabus. I want to give credit again to these 3 books that helped me do research on each syllabus. And remember, if you want to have this book and read it to yourself, well, the second one here, Xenos, you can get them for free in a website. You just go here. But basically, if you want these all in a zip file and send it to you, just subscribe and turn on notification and message me, and I'll send you for 100% free. And that's it. Thank you for watching.